Okay. Testing sound.
Testing sound. I'm assuming I don't sound like a robot anymore. Is that true?
Yes. C Farsight is here. He's been here for 5 minutes. He says the sound is good, so we're good to go.
Good. Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for warmer 40K from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 181, and we're going to cover a whole bunch of 9th edition kind of around all these leaks, and they keep us, just it's like an addict, right? They're slowly dripping out more and more leaks to kind of keep us hyped for this new 9th edition of Warhammer 40,000. As usual, I am your host, Chris, at CanHammer Chris on Twitter and Instagram, and I am joined by my co-host,
Darren. Chris is. We don't know. We think Skype is probably an issue here. Like, we keep having weird laggy issues, but both our internets are super fast. So, yeah.
So I was roboting again?
Yeah, just for a minute there, but you seem to be okay now.
Like a minute's a very long time in like podcast world, was it? And I don't think we've been.
I was like 5 seconds. So. It was 5 seconds.
So our apologies then. I do have new routers on the way, so hopefully we can get through this show. And if it's too terrible, we might have to stop. But it is what it is for now. So yeah, Darren's my co-host. He introduced himself. What have you been up to, Darren?
Actually working, which is a change. The world is starting to open up a little bit, and that includes hospitals. So we're able to see more than like 6 patients a day now, which is a nice relief. So have been working and been playing Space Hulk, believe it or not.
On the PS4, right?
I think 4 or 5 people caught us on Monday night, me, Francois, and Nick playing Space Hulk, and that was pretty fun. You can go and I posted the video of that session on YouTube. I watched it again today. It's pretty funny. But so we think we might make that a regular thing, just a change of pace, maybe on a Monday or a Sunday or whatever. It's actually pretty fun in multiplayer. It's kind of a shitty game, like single player, but multiplayer is pretty fun.
Well, the graphics are pretty good in that. Like, it looks like a modern game. But...
Yeah.
So good. What's the multiplayer like? Like, is it like a first person shooter? Is it?
Yeah. So it's you're a Terminator. You're a Deathwing Terminator, and you guys are on a Space Hulk, and Belial gives you missions, but basically you're just going around killing Tyranids. And in single player, it's like it's fairly planned, but in multiplayer, it just seems like an endless number of Tyranids constantly swarming you. So it's pretty chaotic. So it's pretty fun, and they've got all the cool weapons: assault cannons and flamers and power fists and thunder hammers and plasma cannons. So it's pretty cool, and you're just stomping around as Terminators. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But you never get to like fight each other, or is there like a?
So apparently you can turn on friendly fire, and I cannot see how anybody could possibly play this game with friendly fire turned on. I would constantly have killed Nick by shooting him in the back. But yeah, there's just too many Tyranids all over the place, all around. I don't know how you could avoid friendly fire.
Yeah, never go hunting with Darren. Yeah, I have it on the PC. I think I played a little bit of single player and never really got into it, but it's interesting. It's funny how a lot of people turn to Warhammer 40K video games during the quarantine to kind of get their fix of like Warhammer kind of 40K universe and gaming in general. And I'm sure video games right now, well, actually I know are spiking in popularity, but hopefully they sold a lot of the GW ones and they're able to, make a few more in the future. So
yeah, I know. I never got it. Did you ever try Tabletop Simulator? That never interested me at all. For some reason. So yeah, I haven't played a game in a long time. But we are okay. So I guess this is a bit of news. We are going to, or I am, I guess, going to start streaming games again, probably in the next couple of weeks after the Custodes book drops. I'm going to have to, like, it's going to be quarantine or not, like, just going to have to do it. So
do they have a date of when that book's dropping, or is that just speculation at this point?
This weekend is pre-order, and next weekend,
yep.
Yeah. So it's going to be after that next weekend.
So it's confirmed it's the first book.
Yeah.
By who? Is that like a real confirmation?
That's what GW said. Pre-orders this weekend.
I meant for the Custodes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know. It sounds like your wish list. Like you've been wish listing a Custodes book for like a year now. There was like, oh, a pallet of them came in. We saw the shipping order. I'm just making sure it's.
No, it's confirmed, man. We're starting to get the leaks. Hopefully, our leaks are tomorrow. So it's an exciting time.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be really really good. I hope they take the Forge World stuff, put it into the book, and they make it kind of a complete package now.
No, they won't. The Forge World stuff's going to be in the Forge World book when it comes out after ninth.
So, what do you think they're gonna add units, or it's just gonna be very samey, just new rules?
Well, as they already said, they're going to integrate sisters. How they do that is unclear right now. Into a new Talons force, I guess, and then who knows? Hopefully we just get what everybody else has been getting, which is a couple of rules and some strats and relics, and that's all we expect to get what everyone else is getting. So we'll see. People were very upset today that it was talk of Fabius Bile on the stream and not Custodes. There was a lot of chattering around at that time, at around 10:30 Eastern, when that stream was on, and the talk turned to Fabius Bile again on the 40K Daily. But anyway, should be tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, I guess. So we'll see.
Okay, that'd be very interesting. So I guess we can move over to the turn the lights on or keep the lights on of the podcast phase. So why don't you plug the sponsors?
Yeah, shout out to our main sponsors, Dan and Dylan at Red Dragon. The Red Dragon is open, and he doesn't think he's going to be able to host games till December, he was saying, or Christmas. But the store is open, and he is getting his orders in, although it is fairly erratic right now. Probably more to do with postal service than GW. I think that he just got the Engine Wars in today, which is 5 days late or 7 days late, but things are coming in. So do check it out. There is a CanHammer discount as usual there, so check that out. And thank you to all our followers and patrons and subscribers and people in the podcast. It's a pretty booming, active place right now. And we've been doing voice chats as well, like pre-shows and voice chats. So it's pretty cool. So check it out. The link is below Chris's face there. And I believe that is a non-expiring link, hopefully. Discord is a bit screwy like that.
Yeah, and it always resets. It's kind of interesting like that. So just try it, and if it doesn't work,
yeah, just let us know. We'll just give you a new link.
Right on. So I guess we won't beat around the bush anymore. We'll get straight into it. So what's new with this new edition? What kind of rumors?
Okay, so I think last time we got all the way up to the stuff about CP, and the games and the fact that so now we've had I just put it out there in the TO form. I said TOs of big tournaments: FLG, Nova, Adepticon, WTC, London GT. Are you guys playing 4x5 and are you guys playing GW new missions? And they all confirmed yes. That includes the WTC. So there you go. Be prepared if you go to any of those big tournaments and probably many smaller tournaments. This is probably what you're going to be playing, the slightly smaller table with the new missions. Although I suspect most people will probably just play 48 by 5 feet instead of 44 because it seems a pain in the butt to take away 4 inches off the whip. Probably not a big deal. Okay, so let's talk about the GW stuff first, and then I'll talk about the other leagues. How do we do that?
Sure.
Okay, so basically what I've just been doing is taking notes from the published posts as well as the stream every day. So we'll just talk about those things. So the first thing they really spent a lot of time on was tanks, monsters, sort of vehicles and monsters. And they confirmed that this -1 to hit for heavy weapon only now applies to infantry, not to tanks, vehicles, or monsters, and apparently not to anything else, bikes. They just said -1 to hit for heavy weapons for infantry. So what do you think about that, Chris?
I think it's a huge difference. I really like it. I like it a lot. Tanks are supposed to be mobile gun platforms, and a lot of the good tanks already have rules around moving and shooting.
Machine Spirit.
Machine Spirit, or like what's that Behemoth or whatever rule that the Lehman Russ have if they move certain speed. I think that this change is a big one in bringing tanks back into the game, back into the meta. I personally look at this and go like, oh, mech guns are vehicles, so they can just move and shoot now without a penalty. Now they might change keywords for stuff like that, so who really knows? But yeah, it's definitely a good thing, kind of in that direction, and it kind of fits more the theme of things. Like I always thought it was a bit weird, like chimeras. They're not good, but it's also like now they're a little bit better, right, or something of
Hmm.
that nature, because they have two heavy weapons on them, so they can move and now kind of shoot. And
Yeah. Especially when we're dealing with weapons that weren't actually that big, like a heavy bolter. I know it's called a heavy bolter, but it's like marginally larger than a storm bolter. I mean, why is that thing giving you -1 to hit? You know, if you're like this massive tank, it's kind of
yeah, and you would kind of assume that like the tracking mechanisms in a space age universe like this would be able to compensate for the tank moving and maneuvering and hitting bumps, and like the suspension would kind of make up for that. So I definitely like it. I think infantry, there needs to be a penalty, or else there's no point in having heavy weapons.
yeah,
And some factions just have more assault weapons than others because of the previous edition. So if you look at a lot of the orc stuff, like in the past, you couldn't move and shoot heavy weapons at all. And so things like the orc rockets were always assault because they probably wanted that game mechanism where you could move and shoot.
yeah,
Whereas now they can kind of build that into the rules more. It gives them more flexibility. So like
yeah,
when designing new units and new stuff.
yeah. I quite like it. I think it's cool. There may be some fringe units maybe that gotten a secret buff by that, like bikes that have heavy weapons, like salvo launchers, or other unit types. Obviously, dreadnoughts not taking the penalty is really nice because I always thought that's kind of shitty too.
Yeah.
Tell them on, but so I think that's pretty good. Like I have no problems with that rule, and it seems like everything's getting capped at -1 anyway for to hit modifiers. So we'll probably get rid of some of these rules probably.
Yeah, and I definitely have a problem with certain units, like certain units have way too many guns, like certain what's the friggin' the name escapes me right now, the Space Marine Dreadnought.
The
Anyway,
Redemptor
yeah, whatever.
or the
But yeah,
Leviathan.
Leviathan, because those are heavy, right? So it would keep it kind of stationary. I definitely think, yeah, it gives the boost to dreadnoughts, and I like it.
So they did mention then that Power of the Machine Spirit, which of course makes you immune to the -1 penalty for heavy, will stay, but will become a different rule at some point and
Of course.
do something else. So there you go.
Yeah, that's great. Like before, like that rule's changed every other edition, so why not this
Yeah,
one?
yeah. They did confirm they had mentioned before this capitalized engagement range, which is just their name for being within 1 inch now. So I think in 7th we used to call it locked in combat or whatever, and so now it's called in 8th they always just put within 1 inch of enemy, within 1 inch of an enemy. But now they've codified it again as the engagement range.
Yeah, which is standard. They like in AOS they have that's the 3 inches instead of 1 inch, but because I don't think they're probably not going to add ranges to melee weapons in
No,
this edition. But I definitely think putting a generic rule name for that's a lot better, and it makes it a lot more clear.
and then
Because it's
the
like in 1 inch, within 1 inch. Somebody makes
yeah
a typo or different designers. Now it's just this rule is if you're
is
within an
that.
inch.
Yeah, I really and for the most part, people use the nomenclature of locked in combat anyway, but that's basically what it was. You were within an inch. So, and then finally, of course, tanks, vehicles, and monsters can shoot while in combat, so within engagement range. But if they shoot those people, then it's -1 to hit.
Yeah, and just clarify that they can only shoot which units.
They can only shoot the unit that they're within engagement range of, even
Them,
if their
yes.
own, yeah, even if they have other models from their army that are also like in combat with that unit. So you can still shoot that unit, and you can
Yeah,
shoot blast weapons, which we'll get to.
it's just like Age of Sigmar, where
That's
you
right.
can shoot the unit that you are personally engaged with,
Yeah,
which is I think it's great if you're a vehicle player. If your faction has vehicles, it's also quite terrifying. But I look at things like mech guns. You can still tie them down with a unit of infantry, but I still get to actually shoot the unit that's tying me down. Because in the past, people would just like lock them against the board edge, and then you'd be like, "Oh, I'm screwed." But now it's like, no, I'm stuck shooting that target, but I'm still shooting that target. So,
yeah. The
which
other
is pretty
thing,
cool.
the other thing they clarified is that if your vehicle has multiple guns, you can take the chance and actually declare weapons to shoot things outside of combat and then just do your order of operations that you try and clear the people that you're in combat with first.
Yep. Yeah, I
So
like that.
if you're like a Lehman Russ and you have two flamers and you're stuck with two grots in front of you and you want to shoot your battle cannon at the tank down there, you can say, okay, these two flamers shoot these two grots, and then if you do kill those two grots, you're still then able to shoot your others. But if you don't, then you're screwed. But with
Yeah,
blast weapon anyway, that probably doesn't matter too much. But we'll
well,
talk about that later.
I like that a lot because like clearly the goal of this was they don't want vehicles just being locked down for the rest of the game and then everybody going to this huge infantry hammer game when really vehicles are a very important part of like modern mobile warfare. So I like that, and that kind of satisfies that kind of lockdown thing. I don't know. I kind of worry about the abuse of that. Like it'd be better. I guess like it almost feels like it's too much in that direction, but I guess we'll see when the actual game comes out.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, they can shoot you now. Okay, they can shoot your unit, and then they can also, if you lock them down with one grot, let's say, they can just be like, well, whatever, I'll shoot it with one of my guns, and then I'm free.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, and then they also can move and shoot, but I'm assuming they can't move out of combat.
Well, they haven't talked about the fallback changes yet, to be honest, other than that one stratagem. So, but I'm assuming that they'll just not be able to just willy-nilly fall out of combat and shoot.
Or yeah, that seems the weird part. I was wondering if that, like, I'm wondering if, because obviously we don't know yet, like if that rule stays where if they fall back they can't shoot at all. So that'd be kind of an interesting choice, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's also interesting that traditionally you kind of declare all your weapons at the same time, and they said that is still how it's going to be. But then like you do this sequence of events whereby the situation changes, and then you can. So that's kind of a little bit different from usual, but it's interesting to see how they're going to sort of word that out.
Yeah, I don't think that's that crazy. You do the same thing, but if when you get to a weapon, you cannot target the enemy because you're engaged, then you can't target that unit.
Yeah.
I don't really see that changing.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about Blast later because there's a big whole day today was on Blast. So, so other rules that have changed for vehicles and monsters that may benefit is so the whole issue of like a Tyrannid monster not being able to fight with your guys like up the steps. So they've changed things like that. So, knights probably will be able to hit the people that are on the first floor or whatever. That's literally a millimeter away from their chainsword. Yeah.
I'm indifferent to that. Like obviously the game is going to change. It's going to move in just a different direction, and the composition of armies is going to change. So these rules are just going to affect that. So it's hard for me to look outside of my current kind of the current glasses I wear about that. Some of the frustrating things about fighting knights was the fact, or some of the, I guess the things that would save you was the fact that you could hide out of range of them, even though it looked silly and felt silly. It was like your way of saying like this lonely guy is like under a pile of rubble and the knight has no way of like seeing him. That's how I kind of justified that. And so now, yeah, if you open up that, hopefully the knight's points cost get adjusted because now they're way more tactically flexible and they can deal with way more opponents, right? So that does worry me because knights, when they first dropped, could just hose through whole armies really quickly.
Yeah.
And then they eventually got worse and worse and worse. And right now, I actually feel like they're in a very good place. So they're going to get a lot of nice boosts in this. Mind you, not really, because the shooting boost doesn't really change it. But like, think about the shooting. Like you like they could theoretically shoot their Gatler into the unit that's engaged with them. So if you were putting in like 14 models to try and hold the guy, you used like your 2 CP. So you're like, okay, I'm going to hold this knight in combat. He's now going to like shoot you with his stubber, your remaining two guys, after fighting. Because like knights are really good in combat and they're really good in shooting. So now he's like getting everything every turn. So that seems just a little bit crazy. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But then you just have to plan for that, right? Take stuff that kills knights.
So the other thing mentioned is that there's going to be more hugging of terrain to try and get, degrees of cover on your tanks, and that gaining line of sight will be more difficult. So they mentioned again, you're not going to be able to snipe out the little antenna of the current effects that's sticking out of the corner of the building, and that Stu specifically mentioned that a castling style play will not win you the mission.
Yeah, they say that all the time.
Yeah, I know.
They say that every.
Just trying
It's
to
not
scare the Cal
castling.
players.
It's like you castle half your army, you blow the opponent off, and then you have elements that can drop in an outflank. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you don't need to put a lot of points into forward momentum. Well, some armies do, but like even but a lot of armies don't.
Okay, well, let's go on to talk about blast. So today's show and article was about blast weapons. So what they said about blast. First of all, this is like a new kind of weapon keyword, and the new edition is going to come with an appendix which has all the weapons that are now considered blast weapons listed on it. And future publications, they will obviously say blast. And this, they think, affects about 170 or more weapons.
I think so.
Basically, it's like any weapon that has like a random number of shots, basically. D3,
Yeah.
D6, 2D3, whatever. So that includes big things like battle cannons and stuff like that, but also includes grenades. And it does not include flamers or auto hitting weapons. And basically, if you shoot with a blast weapon at a unit with 6 or more models, you get a min number of shots. So if it's a D6 weapon, you roll, and if you get a 1 or 2, it counts as 3. And if you shoot at a unit with 11 or more models, then you automatically get max shots.
Yeah, this is a massive change. It truly is, if especially if it's 170 weapons like they speculate, it truly is a way to kind of go anti-horde. Now you got to think about something like even like Space Marines right now, or a lot of things. Missile launchers are kind of not that popular. But
Frag.
with a lot of these rules, tanks are coming back. So the crack missile is going to be really great. And then the frag missile, right? You're right. Like there's 30, I'm going to say orc boys or whatever, but even 10 tactical marines, you have 10 tactical marines. I'm now guaranteed. Well, no, you would shoot the crack at tactical marines. Who are we kidding? But actually, nobody's going to take tactical marines. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. So if there's but if somebody has like a large unit, you're now getting 24 shots on them. Like that's great. And if you have some kind of reroll hits or reroll ones to wound mechanic mixed in with that, this missile launcher unit now truly has that like multifunctional, like multi battlefield role ability that it was missing in this previous edition. Like this previous edition was like crack or nothing, and most time took nothing. Now, there's lots of other weapons that are going to benefit from this. Grenade launchers are a good example because they're super cheap in the guard book,
Yeah.
and you could fit them. So you start putting them in all your friggin' units, and it's like amazing. There's also a lot of strats, and I don't know if grenades will be. It
Yeah.
says
Grenades
grenade
will be
weapons.
included. Yeah.
So like, I'm assuming
No,
frag
they did
grenades.
say grenades.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. So if all grenades are included, even things like tank buster bombs and things of that nature, they're now actually pretty good at anti-horde.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also like those strats that are like, okay, you can throw all 10 grenades, or you can throw 10, like in the orcs, it's 10 models out of a unit. So now you're looking at that, you're like, I'm throwing all 3 tank buster bombs, so that's 3d6 shots, and then I'm throwing 7 friggin' regular grenades. That's like a lot of shots. You put more DAC on that unit, you shoot them twice. The rest of them are shooting their shooters. That's like a dead infantry unit, and it only needs to have 11 models when you're initially shooting it. And there's a lot of units that are 11 models, right? So
Yeah.
or more.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even have to be like a 30-man horde. Like this is just 11 guys, right? Like.
And even the small buff of getting min 3 with 6+ models. I mean, 6+ models is pretty common, right? Like,
Well, that's the better thing is that like, so if you really think about that, and you have 6 guys or 7, and I'm shooting 10 grenades, let's say, on average that should be 7 times 5 shots, but you're removing all the lower elements of that, so it's going to be like significantly more shots.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So like I love that mechanics of the D6 but min 3. It gives you that reliability of doing at least 3. And so it's kind of the same thing. What's not clear is how this interacts with things that are like 2D6 or that kind of thing.
Well, they'll be max. If they're blast, they'll be max.
Well, if it's the 11+ models, it would be maxed, yeah. But what if it's like 6+ models? Is that 3 each, or is it?
Oh yeah, I would
Like,
assume 3 each.
I
Yes.
think it just does that, but then things like Thunderfires become extremely good. stuff like that.
So that would be a real worry about the Thunderfire's already
Scorpius
extremely
whirlwinds.
good. And then now you're looking at these things going to guaranteed more hits, like more shots. That's pretty scary.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then again, should they go up in points? Like this is the start of the death of hordes as everybody's coining it online. I think that's a little bit premature, but it's
yeah.
coming. Or they just don't make the Thunderfire Cannon Blast, right? I don't know.
So like a whirlwind shooting at a horde unit over 11 models now shoots, what is it, 24 auto shots basically. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and then with all the rerolling hits, rerolling wounds,
Reroll
shooting
wounds.
twice.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I guess when you shoot the second time, it won't matter because that unit
Because
won't
it's
be
to be
there.
dead.
It'll be under 11. But it's interesting. It's interesting. It's not the direction that we predicted last show, but it's cool, and I definitely like it. But it's not as clear. Like they're gonna have to. I hope that they make it, as you said, like this gets 3, this gets 6, and hopefully they've kind of flushed it out.
Yeah, yeah. So the other thing, obviously, blast weapons cannot shoot into combat. So
Makes
that does
sense.
tone down the shooting into combat sort of thing a little bit. So you're not getting a demolisher cannon in the face.
But can they shoot? They can shoot out of combat if you kill that unit.
They can. So you just say, okay, I'm going to shoot over there if I get out of combat. Otherwise, I can't shoot it anyway. So there's a thing. So it's not too bad trying to touch a Lehman Russ tank. You can if you can survive it, sponsoring in hull mounted weapons.
Yeah, and like if you think about like a repulsor, they could generally fly away anyway, but they'll have a couple grenade weapons that might not work.
Yeah. And so, like, if you lock a knight in, it's not going to be shooting its battle cannon at you in combat.
Which won't matter because they'll just shoot his Gatler and fight you. Like, but it is what it is.
Well, the Gatler has. Oh no, it's not a random shot. Yeah.
Well, it's 12. Yeah, 2 damage. So yeah, no.
Yeah. It will affect grenades. So people were talking about Death Guard builds with the Death Guard grenade build, how they can have like whole units throwing
Well,
grenades, and so that's a lot of grenade hits.
most factions have that, right? Like Astra Militarum even like have that. It's great. Like
I think the guard one is only on Overwatch though, isn't it? Where everyone can throw a grenade. I believe it's just Overwatch.
even still though, man, 10 of those out front, you can't charge it with a boy unit now, right? Well,
Yeah.
you can, but you're going to take a lot of casualties. It depends how Overwatch is, I guess. You're not going to take that many. 6, 18, 60. Yeah, you're going to take a lot. 10 hits. You're going to take enough. 4 or 5. That's enough.
And obviously, every army probably has some blast weapon in it somewhere. So I'm pretty sure every army gets something. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of like the crazy culprits, and I think a lot of that marine artillery is going to be the stuff to watch out for. A lot of Astra Militarum, like basilisks, I'm assuming are going to get the blast rule, so they're already very very good. But now it's like you got 10 grots on the objective. I'm rolling 2d6, but I'm guaranteed 3 or more, so it's not great. But things like a wyvern might make a comeback if they become blast.
yeah, because that, like we said, that is a whirlwind or the wyvern. Is the wyvern that makes like the 24 shots, like
Yeah, it's the wyvern.
46
So you said
shots.
whirlwind, but the whirlwind's only 2d6.
Yeah. No,
But
it's the wyvern. That's still good. 2d6 though.
But yeah, you take the wyverns, that's like a lot of hits, and they're already re-rolling wounds. Then you get some kind of re-roll 1 to hit mechanic, or you kind of buff them to hit if you can somehow. And you're gonna be really mowing down infantry. It also makes you, when you're building a list, you're gonna have to plan for this now. So you're gonna see, I think, a lot of people running like 5-man squads. That's it, or 10, or like 30. You're gonna have to be careful when you're adding units to make sure that they're either like at or below those thresholds,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So like you almost don't want to have units of 11 or more if your opponent has a lot of blast weapons. So things like Space Marines get another advantage against blast weapons in that they can combat squad. So it kind of negates that whole rule. And so I'm assuming that they're going to change the points values in the books, because they're going through redoing all the points, obviously, when the edition drops. So if they change the point values for blast weapons to make them more expensive or at a premium, then somebody pays for that and you're a Marine army, you can just combat squad everything and you're good to go. So,
Yeah.
but if everybody's taking tanks, it doesn't really. It's a moot point, right?
Yeah.
Like if this edition is catered towards vehicles, which it sounds like they were trying to push it that way, but you never know. Then yeah, this will change. Like I read these rules and I immediately think 18 mech guns are still like the thing to do because they can move and shoot without the penalty now. They can shoot into somebody when you charge them, which is really great. So
Yeah. 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 It'll be interesting trying to mix it up, really. So it's kind of cool.
like Tank Busta's got a lot better for me in my mind because I know I'm focusing on orcs, but that's just the way I am. You got to deal with that shit. But Tank Bustas, you use the strat on them. You throw 10 Tank Busta bombs into a horde unit. That's like 10d6 friggin' automatically. It's like 60 shots, right? You're hitting 20 of them. That's like a lot of damage to a unit. Even though it's a horde unit, it's still like it's better than nothing. What do you think of blast weapons? You like?
I like the idea of it. I don't know that we need 170 of them.
I think that's misleading though. Like I think the Space Marines alone have like 3 or 4 different like missile launchers. So that's like, you know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of weapons in this game that are like one-offs on vehicles that are stacking that number. There's probably like 1,000 weapons in the game, right? There's probably a lot more than you think.
So people are pretty much lamenting the death of horde armies with the information that we have available already. Do you think that's the case, or?
Oh, well, if we're just speculating, I think no. I think horde armies right now are very, very, very good. Very, very, very strong for the most part. Marines kind of changed that near the end. The thing that I like about this is they say, okay, people have now the tools to kind of deal with more hordes and vehicles can't be locked down. But the terrain also gives you more buffs and blocks line of sight more. So, like, let's be honest, I could hide 30 boys again on a lot of tables before. And now, if it's a little bit easier, I'll be able to hide them again. So,
Yeah. I think we just don't know enough to just say, oh, horde armies are dead.
yeah. Like, I think GW has even said that. They want to lessen the impact of hordes and they want to increase tanks. And so these rules make perfect sense, right? Yeah, you're going to do that. Now, does it mean that hordes are dead? No, it just means they're slightly less effective, which they need. Does it mean that tanks are going to pound everybody's face? No, they're just more effective. And then they'll have to balance the game through points tweaks like they always do, right? Like, most things that are really broken and really good in this game are because they underpoint them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wild world out there, so we'll see what happens. And yeah, who knows? I think everyone should just keep an open mind and not get too crazy about knowing very little really about what's coming. So
I don't know. I think like just reading these, the game's probably very similar.
yeah.
Like even looking at the missions and how they function, I don't like, they're not reinventing the wheel here. It's
Yeah.
but it's a nice change, and it like let's see like we immediately look at the things that are really good and we're like, oh man, they got better, but there's going to be a lot of things that maybe were just kind of trash before that are now playable. So that might be the real plus of these blast weapon changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go on to these kind of, I'll call them quote unquote leaks, but I'm not going to reveal my source, obviously, but these are fairly reliable leaks, I would say. So I'll just put out the points and we'll talk about them. So first thing we already talked about, monsters, vehicle armies. They're going to be a thing. Nidzilla, Lehman Rush spam. So bring weapons that can kill, T7, T8 type stuff.
Mech guns, yes. I'll bring them.
Mech guns.
I'll bring lots of them.
Just bring lots of mech guns.
Yeah, I'm going to bring 18 of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm liking it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I would like to see some Tyranid monsters. They're pretty cool. We just never see them. Like, when's the last time you saw, like, I can't remember what they're called. A Turvagon.
That's true. But I still have like nightmares from the Flyrant spam list of the 8th edition. That like after that, I was like, Nids just need to suffer for a couple years, man. You guys just need to fucking suffer, and that's how I felt.
Yeah, or what's that Tyranid drop pod called that ends up moving around and shooting you? I can't remember what it's
Yeah.
called. Sporocyst or something? Okay. So the points hikes are not going to be much for most units. However, some units that have been very good are going to get rebalanced, like Centurions. Time for other things to shine, like aggressors. That's a direct quote.
Why would aggressors shine? They were already good.
I guess they were, in some armies they were overshadowed by aggressors because aggressors were so freaking cheap.
Oh, you mean aggressors are getting nerfed? Okay, that's not what. Never
No,
mind.
no, no. Centurions. Aggressors are going to
Yeah, thank
shine more
God.
because
Yes.
Centurions are going to get nerfed.
Yeah, Centurion should have never been a thing like they were in this new edition. Like they shouldn't have taken that old crappy model that should have never existed in the first place and made it so good.
Yeah, I know. It's like the
Like
one of the worst models.
I was so ticked off when they came out with those originally. I was like, that just shouldn't be a thing. And then they got good again.
Okay. Most of the core the other detachments. So we already know about the core ones, which is like battalion, brigade, and patrol. The non-core detachments, vanguard, spearhead, blah 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 blah, apparently are pretty much unchanged. Supreme command has been changed, and we don't know to what yet. I never did like the supreme command.
No, it was definitely abusable, and I think a lot of things got nerfed because of the Supreme Command in general, right? Like it was like just take 5 characters or 3 characters, and you get a CP to boot. It was kind of silly.
Yeah,
If
and
it
an
was
elite
like
in there
negative
for
one
some reason,
CP or
and then
something.
Lord of War, and it was just like a
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
detachment. Okay,
Well, the elite was like their bodyguard because I think that was put in squads to the elite slot. So I think that's why that was there.
okay. The next comment was about hordes being, out of the meta now because of all the stuff that we've been talking about. And the counter argument is that you can just reserve whatever you want now, so you don't have to put them all on the table.
Yeah, I dig that.
Another statement about the meta is going to go big vehicles, Tyranid monsters, Riptides. And people lamenting the death of troops because you don't need troops anymore for CP. Well, it turns out that you probably do need a battalion or a patrol to start with, and so you're going to need to bring 3 units of troops. But also to comment that you're going to need guys that you don't want to do anything else but do actions for you, and so that's what troops do.
They do actions of some kind. Okay,
Yeah.
to win the scenarios.
The mission they leaked already shows that if you can do some of these actions can gain you a lot of victory points. So, you want units that are not going to do anything but survive and do actions for you, right?
Yeah, I guess it removes troops from like a front and center spamming role too, like more of a hide them in cover, which I guess some armies do that now, some don't. But yeah, like troops are really not meant to be breaking through the enemy line and rushing up the front and just getting mowed down by machine gun fire. They're meant to more hold points, move in behind the specialist troops and kind of hold ground. And hopefully this, like reading into this kind of leak is how I see it is yeah, you're not taking troops to do much fighting. They will do some fighting, but you're taking them more as a complete kind of package to do jobs for you and win the mission.
And mentioned that there are some actions that are really easy, but maybe only worth 1 or 2 victory points. But some of the actions are quite difficult to do and worth a lot more victory points. So, depending on the mission, and that they've already seen future missions coming out. I don't know, 6 months or whatever. That where the actions are all different and the secondaries have been changed as well. So hopefully we might see a more, maybe not every year like General Handbook, maybe more frequent than that, like rotating missions. Who knows? That'd be cool, like not to play the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, if they rotate missions on like a 6-month basis, it'll force people to
Change up.
like paint their armies up a little bit faster, get them up and going. Not necessarily spam one component super hard, bring in something that's more flexible, not in preparation for now, but for preparation when that new one comes out, right? So instead of going 3 of X unit, you go 2 of X and 1 of Y, just in case you need some kind of flexibility. But if you're like really going hard, you'll probably just buy 3 of X, and then when Y is good, you'll buy 3 of Y. But definitely keep pro painters busy, and it'll keep kind of the sales up without. I always thought that would be cool if they could get a way to kind of force people to refresh parts of their army instead of refreshing the whole army. Like when an army book drops, you're like, oh, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm only actually going to reuse 3 units and the rest is all fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it'd be nice, yeah, to incentivize people to like, oh, I have this 2,000 point Ultramarine army. Oh, now I need to add 100 points because this new mission. Add the 100 points. Oh, next mission, and then next thing you know, in 4 years, you have like a 6,000 point Ultramarine army, and you didn't have to like start fresh from scratch over and over again. You got to just kind of tweak it and change it, and
And you
it
didn't
kind of
have to
encourages
buy,
that.
18 Centurions.
Yeah, like I like that. Yeah, or you could do that, but then it's like you're taking that chance that in 6 months it's gone. And that's something that in this previous edition, I'd say like Jason and I were kind of notorious for buying huge spam armies and like pumping them out. And we actually, near the end of once the rule of three came into effect, we were actually starting to slow down and plan it. And there was times when I was like, I could make this build that's disgusting, but I'm just going to wait the month and suffer through it to make sure it doesn't get nerfed. Mech guns are a prime example of that. I think I had like eight of them or 9 of them or 11 of them. I can't remember. And then I waited for the specific points hit before I went to the full 18, which was a mistake in hindsight. But of course, if they would have got nerfed to oblivion, it would have been a real positive, right?
All right. This person does not feel like the new game will allow any army to deny secondaries. So I guess this is a reference to ITC where some armies really deny secondaries hard, and then you're stuck trying to figure out what to do. And so there's enough secondaries and variety in the secondaries that you can always find something to do. Apparently.
Oh yeah, for now, and then there'll always be something that breaks it. That's a very optimistic comment, and then they'll just change it. No, it'll never be perfect, but yeah, I definitely like allowing people to score and play their game and not get shut down is a real asset. In the past, there's a lot of missions where you'd be like, I get nothing. I just lose. Whereas even if you lose, but you do a lot of scoring and you can score some of your objectives, it just makes the game more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We already know from GW there's going to be different degrees of cover, and so that's just another thing. Necrons will be getting a way of playing that includes monsters. So maybe some of those new models that we're going to be seeing will be monsters. Probably big enough to be monsters.
Oh, for sure they will be.
Yeah, like Satan. Is a Satan a monster? I can't remember.
Well, yeah.
That little
I
War
don't
of the
know.
Worlds
I don't know.
walker dude.
I haven't seen a Satan on the board in a very long time, but it's just a keyword, and like rules wise, and even though something might not quote unquote be a monster, I think grouping them into that category and putting more things into that category is just better for the game in general. Because that way, if you have an anti-monster ability of some kind, like it has more of an effect across the board. Even though it might not make sense that this big Necron thing is a monster, it's probably like even like dreadnoughts, they might be. Maybe it's better if they were monsters instead of vehicles in some ways, but that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I think they've leveled the playing field in terms of vehicle and monster, right? Because monsters basically had nothing before, but vehicles had a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I definitely always thought that dreadnoughts should have been monsters. They should just be a different way of playing. Because now they're just vehicles. Like now that there's no like facings and stuff, they're just basically vehicles. Mm-hmm. It's all the same.
What do you think about the facing issue? Do you think you like that or not like that? I know that was gone as of 8th, but do you think that should be brought back? Do you think that's a cool thing or not a cool thing?
Oh, so like I really loved facing when we had it. I thought it made perfect sense. It allowed you to play certain ways and kind of get the up on people. I'm glad it's gone because a lot of people, I had templates for facing, like they were the best investment I think I ever bought. But a lot of people have no clue how to measure facing, and it would be like argument city. And so now that it's gone, I'm like good riddance. I also like that on vehicles you measure to the hull for all the weapons instead of like from the weapon. That was one of the other old things I used to do, because it used to suck when people would be like, "Oh, do I put the Land Raider guns on the front or the back?" And and I kind of like streamlining the rules and keeping it super simple and then less arguments. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always better.
Infantry keyword is still going to be king in terms of interaction with terrain, moving through terrain, being able to take advantage of terrain bonuses. Foot Slogger is going to be very powerful. monsters and vehicles will still suffer a little bit from having to move around things. So
Love it. Yeah,
there you go.
that's perfect. Yeah, if you make it so that everything can move through terrain freely, it's just there's no
Terrain
point.
becomes useless almost.
And infantry is probably going to need to be able to use the cover. Like that's going to be they're going to need it. So
Satan are monsters apparently. There you go.
great. Yeah, monsters in the garbage can. Yeah.
So there's been some small changes to the way that assaulting works, falling back, and the little movements like piles in and consolidations and things. People who are good at moving will be successful in the combat phase.
Yeah, that's been the case for 8 editions.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes to the assault phase and the combat to help assault armies.
That's great. Yeah, like this game has always really rewarded people that know how to move correctly, do certain tricks in the movement phase, certain tricks. And if they give that kind of rewarding element and favor that, I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. And with the amount of volume of shots and shooting in this game, assault armies could probably take a really large boost, and they still probably wouldn't be that effective.
Yeah, we still get mowed down without retribution.
Yeah. But, I'm glad that they're thinking about that. I'm assuming that's to do with like locking in and dragging in other units and things of that nature. I'm kind of excited for that. Yeah, I love combat, and the fact that it's gone from the game this edition, or it felt like it was gone. Like in 8th edition, combat armies or combat units that were good in combat would hit you and just wipe you, or they would like lock you in and just tie you down forever. And that was kind of it. There was no in between, right? So
apparently many armies are going to be good, and most factions have multiple ways of being good.
It was like that in 8th edition until Marines came out. There was like a lot of very good armies.
It was pretty good, wasn't it? It was
yeah,
good.
It was pretty good.
The Marine thing kind of fucked it up for a period of time.
But that's normal. At the end of the edition, the last book always fucks it up. But no, that's great. I'm glad, and I think the points changes will help with that anyway. Even if they like screw up, they can fix it. So fix it. They've been doing a great job fixing broken armies for the most part.
Personal top picks include Sisters, a combination of Sisters with Space Wolves. Space Wolves is just kind of silly with Ragnar right now, and Admech. I think we already know that Admech is going to be good. I mean, they got some really good stuff.
Yeah, they got some goofy looking stuff, but yeah. Well, let's just give them mechanical horses. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the new Admech style that they're moving to. I like the more classical style of Admech, but
yeah, me too. The Da Vinci thing just seems very out of place all of a sudden.
Yes.
It's like this dude with like a Da Vinci looking wings or helicopter. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's supposed to be kind of modeled off maybe the dragon, because they always refer to the dragon of Mars or whatever. It's a Satan or something like that, trapped in Mars, or some kind of demon. I don't know.
Yeah, and
do you know anything about that?
Why does it look like an old Huey helicopter, like the old Magnum PI thing? Like, it just kind of looks out of place, right? Like,
yeah, we might get used to it though. There's a few things we've adjusted to, like some of the Primaris dreadnoughts, like the Redemptor. At first, I was like, this does not look like it belongs here. This looks like it belongs in like an Aliens movie or in like Avatar. But now, to me, it just looks normal. So.
Yeah. Like, if you think about it, even the robots look kind of weird, you know? They're kind of from like the 50s, 60s versus being kind of...
They look like... Yeah.
Yeah.
They look like from that movie, whatever's like something leagues under the sea, right? Like the old diving suits.
Yeah. Like the ultimate like unit that really screams Admech to me is like the Breachers, right? Like those like treads and like weapon arm and, like... Those guys look like what I would think of as Admech, like some Huey helicopter with like, yeah, it's kind of weird.
But this person specifically says that those books are going to be the top. Is that what they're hinting at?
They're very good.
That's good. I'm glad Sisters are good. So
Sisters taking hard to kill bodies to fill the board, and then having Space Wolf characters behind them just pummeling people, basically.
How would they, like in combat, or I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out.
Like Ragnar just like go around killing everything.
Yeah, he does that now, right? So
yeah, he does that now. Okay, so a lot of people thought that tri-pointing, like locking a model, was going to disappear, but it has not disappeared.
I'm glad that was in 2 editions of AOS. That's in this. I like that mechanic a lot. I think like there's enough ways to stop people from doing it to you, and there's enough good plays you can do to stop that. That it's great. Like I love that mechanic.
Well, I think it adds an element of skill to the combat phase, right? Like skill pulling it off and preparing for it, and also trying to prevent it, right? And if you pull it off, it reaps your rewards, and if you don't pull it off, you usually suffer. So,
Well, like you could not have try point. You can just have like huge penalties to falling back, and if they fail, they stay locked in. But then that just kind of makes it less interesting.
there will be some kind of mechanic or something that can get you out of a try point.
Well, that already exists. But yeah, if it's nice for everybody, that'd be great.
Centurion's going up in points, yes.
Good. But
So
they're not the real problem right now. It's some of the Primaris stuff's the problem.
Okay, so there was a ambiguous statement here that ignoring AP is going to be so good in the new edition.
It was so good in this edition. If you had it, there wasn't a lot of it, but
Yeah, there's more of it now than there ever used to be.
yeah, it's
But
really good. Yeah, as long as AP is on a minus system, like a -1 or a -2, -3, like which it obviously is staying. Anything that like makes you like the fantasy ethereal, like the AOS. It's an AOS they call that, like ethereal. It's really good.
yeah, yeah. And there will be a day one FAQ to insta fix and adjust old rules to how they work in the new editions. So I think we all figured that out. And another shout out to Necrons. The new models will give Necron players an entirely different ways of playing.
Good. I think there's only one way to play him now, and that was like, yeah, there was two. There's a couple. There's actually a couple of good Necron builds, but just nobody ran them in singles, or very
Yeah,
few.
right now singles is just like the 3 flyers and the triple doomsday and destroyers. I think most people agreed that like running all the immortals and warriors just was not good. The triple whatever monolith had its day. That stupid list with the triple.
Well, it wasn't the monolith. It
Not
was
monolith.
the
What was it? Tesseract Vault. Oh my
Tesseract Ball.
god.
Yeah.
That had his day for sure.
And there's a couple interesting. I forget what they're called. Like the tomb. What the hell are the little biker guys
Tomb
called?
Blades.
They're Tomb Blades. Like they were really good. You could do like spam of them, good anti-infantry, but yeah, for the most part, the Necrons are lackluster.
Yeah, I think they just overvalued reanimation. And Tesla being modifiable was both good and bad. I mean, 1 - 1 to hit, and you're basically turned off all the Tesla. So, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see
yeah.
how they do, what they do.
Like they were supposed to be super survivable, and they kind of weren't.
Yeah.
And a lot of their strats were useless. And the ones that were good, they'd use them like on one unit, and then you just shoot all the other units. And yeah, Necrons were always. They've always been one of those armies that's either really good or just really terrible. They're never like in the middle.
Yeah. So hopefully they do get better because it'd be cool to see more Necrons for sure. Other than the 2 Peters, we don't really see Necrons in this part of the world.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. That is what I got.
So that was quite a bit. That was a lot of rumors and a lot of actual releases. So it's pretty cool. I'm just so hyped for this edition, man. I can't wait. I've already pre-ordered the pre-order, so I'm just like, I just want my box set.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So do you want to move over to questions then?
Yeah, so people in chat, if you got questions, put them up. I'm going to do the Discord questions first. So here we go. Oh, that was for the etiquette. Okay, here we go.
While he's looking this up, just thank you for positive feedback for the last episode. A lot of people seem to enjoy it, so thank you for sharing that with us. That was great.
Yeah, I've had like a number of messages and stuff that they found that extremely useful.
Yeah.
And for how to deal with just everyday situations, not necessarily like at a tournament or whatever, but even in the game store.
Just don't be a Darren, and you'll be fine.
That's right. Okay, general question. With changes to vehicles, what should we expect to see in terms of vehicles that once were bad and now instantly become more viable?
I think it really depends on what
Land
gets the blast.
speeders, land speeder
So land
typhoons.
speeders, they were kind of good though. Like I wouldn't say they were terrible. They just weren't
But the
amazing.
-1 for the freaking heavy, like,
Gone is great. Like a lot of the orc vehicles, I don't think are going to be that much more common than they already are.
damn, Talon Masters just got a hell of a lot better.
Talon Masters got a hell of a lot better. Yeah, it's a tough one. Dreadnought's got a little bit better. For
Dreadnoughts.
sure. I think that's like the shooting dreadnought. You can use them more as a platform. I'm trying to think. Tau, they didn't need a boost. That's the thing. Like Riptide's got better, but
Riptide.
they didn't really need it.
Broadsides can now move.
They're infantry.
No, they're suit. I believe they're suit.
Yeah, but I thought that. Yeah, but yeah, maybe not then. Whatever.
They need to
Broadsides can
clean
move
up the Tau keywords.
Yeah, so that sounds it. Like I think like transport vehicles like Razorbacks are going to be better now.
Oh
Things like
yeah, assault
Chimeras.
aspects,
So those are the
man.
things that are really going to be benefited. Transports, anything that has like a gun and does a transport role, because now you can actually do both. Um,
Castellan
they sh-
robots apparently are vehicles.
yeah, those will be huge. Yeah, because they can now move, no penalty. They're already gross. Mind you, most of their true buffs allow them to not move anyway. So, and they're playable now. So, for that question, I would say specifically transport vehicles with guns on them. So chimeras and like things like Hellhound, certain Hellhound variants could get a little bit better because they could outflank, count as moving, and then shoot. So that's pretty sweet.
So, with the talk of the game and missions being more dynamic, less castling, what changes do you think we'll see in competition in terms of army-wise? Will MSU finally be a thing without Killmore now around and needing more dynamic units, action units? Maybe we'll start seeing more MSU armies.
Maybe with the blast templates, MSU gives a bonus.
Like we
I
already
really
see
don't
that
know.
in ETC format, right? Because there's no Killmore. Like Killmore's not a big
Well, there's
swing
kill
point.
points. There's kill points.
Yeah, but even then, it's like a max 6 differential on a pretty high scoring mission.
Yeah, but you can't look at like you almost can't look at ETC at all for that because of the fact that like if you could bring an MSU army to ETC because you could specifically go for something that doesn't hurt you as bad. Like you're not stuck going like all comers, right? In ETC, but I think like whatever books drop, like Marines are probably still going to be very, very, very good. As Darren alluded to, all the new books should be quite good as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see that. I don't really know. Like I can't speculate as to the meta because
I don't think we know enough, to be honest.
It's a funny thing too, and it changes by region. So
with this, vehicle shooting into combat, how do you think it'll change people's approach to dealing with vehicles
you'll have to take more shooting, anti-vehicle shooting.
and just try and kill them?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. Like, let's say mech guns go up ridiculous points; they're not valuable. Things like tank bustus for me as an orc player would be like, I can take out 2 of your vehicles at range, and then maybe I can lock one. Things like that. Maybe some more like las cannon units or some kind of anti-tank long-range unit. Las cannon's probably the wrong choice, but something along that vein of long-range anti-tank will be back. For sure. I think so. I think you're going to have to shoot them earlier or at least take them down a profile or two so that you're at the -1.
Yeah. So do you think we're going to see a shift to more vehicle heavy armies? And I think so, at least at first. People are going to be wanting to try those things out.
So you got to think about the way that I kind of see it is like
There already
astronauts
was a bit of
are
that.
already vehicle heavy.
Yeah, limited span and stuff.
And if you're talking about like monsters and you're grouping them all in, yeah. So you'll have to just maybe take a little the choices that maybe were like, oh, I'll take one of these anti-vehicle choices. Now maybe you take 2 or 3 instead, and you just kind of see how it goes from there. And you can always tailor your list back and forth. Like you're still not going to put like a melted gun in a guard squad. Like that's just a complete waste. But you'll maybe take something else that's able to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I would definitely go into the first week though. Like for my sisters, I might. Like I was thinking about like because these rumors, which might be complete BS, but I was thinking about taking one of the multi-melt Devastator squads. Actually, no, they're not Devastators, but you know what I mean. They're Retributors. I was thinking about taking the multi-melt version because you can add the range to them, and I thought that would be maybe a good thing to start with if everybody's trying out their vehicles.
Yeah. So do you think combat armies will be more effective based on the things we've seen so far?
Yes and no. I kind of hope they aren't. Like combat is supposed to be used more of a scalpel, a specific thing to clear an objective, to clear a building, to hold um, kind of modern warfare. Combat is not like a staple. It's something that you have to do in order to accomplish something. So I hope that the combat units can now get there and they are effective. I hope that if you go to somebody and they say, I'm just going to take all corn berserkers and rhinos and run them at you, I hope that that's not effective, right? Because that just makes the game too much the other way
Might be
and
with
too
Fabius
boring.
Bile.
I just
Apparently.
want like I would just like to be able to, like, if you want a combat unit or you have a combat unit, you can get them there without deep striking or something like that, and they can actually fight and kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right now it's the opposite. It's like if you can't drop in and make a charge, your combat unit's garbage. So they have to find that medium thing. Like you don't want it to be in the past editions where, because like think about it this way, how stupid would this be? If you I'm going to put my whole combat army on the line, move, advance, charge, I win. Like that's just not a game. So I don't think they're going to go that way. So I think combat's going to be a bit better, a bit more usable. Maybe you take that one unit of arcoflagellants for your sisters. Not you didn't take it.
Hey.
But let's say you did, and then you could actually fight because you could hide them in terrain, you could run them up. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. It's more of like what I would like to see as well.
Okay, so if you could decide what gets leaked tomorrow about Ninth Edition, what would you want leaked?
Me personally,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. I'm really interested in the assault rules now, just because I think once I know the assault rules, knowing that their intention is to move towards vehicles and away from infantry, I think I could probably start like mentally preparing or like painting a unit. You know what I mean? Like a lot of my orcs right now have a lot of combat, which is fine. But my sisters, I'm relying on a lot of units and a lot of shooting, and not I didn't take a lot of their like countercharging or combat elements. And so maybe now I need to relook at like the Death Cult Assassins or relook at Arcoflagellants, as I mentioned earlier, and maybe look into that kind of some kind of countercharge or punching unit that can move up the field and clear a middle objective. So I'm definitely interested in that.
Yeah. I want them to leak something about the new terrain rules.
I don't know if I'm ready for that, to be honest. Like that is such a that could be such a mess or so awesome. I don't think I'm ready for that. I don't even know if I want to know before release that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like that could be a game breaker, buddy.
It
That
could
could
be.
be.
It could be. It could be. That's why I want to know. I want to
But
know.
yeah, like it'd be nice to know what they are, and then maybe if they leaked a couple types of terrain, then we could start maybe building it. It'd be a fun experiment to build a couple pieces of terrain. But
Yeah. Yeah. Like.
what
Yeah.
I would like to see, I think we talked about this last show, like the options they have with like your terrain. I would definitely like to see the leaks for like army terrain, like your terrain. Like this is the leaks for the because each army for the most part that's being redone has a piece of terrain. For example, the sisters have it's essentially the statue in the building, so it's the battle sanctum. I would like to see like a rule for a battle sanctum, so that maybe I could take that in my army. But
Yeah. I thought that was a trend after we saw the GSC drill, but then it didn't materialize. You know.
yep, and
Um.
it's been a thing in AOS, and maybe they learned some lessons from that. Maybe they didn't,
Yeah.
but I always thought that'd be really cool to flush that out because every army does have. Mind you, it's way more expensive the 40k terrain than the AOS terrain kits.
For some reason.
For like ridiculously more expensive.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of them are a lot too big. But like, could you imagine if Dark Angels got the Fortress of Redemption for like free, or had to take it like their free fortress because they're
This
so
giant
emo.
thing.
They build little hideouts, safe spaces on all these different planets that they can go to.
Oh man. Have you read the Death Guard stuff? Next question is on the Death Guard stuff. I haven't read it, so I don't know.
So I did scroll through it a
What do you
little
think of it?
bit. Well, it's kind of along like we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier with the grenades and things of that. Um, so
Or
they
the Fabius
demons.
Bile stuff. Have you read that?
No, I did not read the Fabius Bile stuff. Did you? So they basically just gave him a bunch of stratagems and things of that nature. I'm not interested in going back to my chaos at this time, so I didn't really find it too
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. So I guess the only thing is Fabius Bile has his new faction, whatever it's called, Weirdos of Chaos or whatever, and but he has to be the warlord to unlock the stuff in that faction. So and so by definition, then you're probably gonna run like a battalion for those guys, or maybe a patrol, I guess. But and then he buffs people like every turn. He can buff a unit with a plus to some characteristic or something. As expected, that's kind of your typical kind of. I think everybody knew that was the mechanic that he was.
Yeah,
gonna
and
use.
everybody gets +1 movement and +1 strength.
Yeah, yeah,
So for your whole army, which is pretty good if you're going for combat. But of course, reading these now for this edition, don't care, right? That doesn't.
yeah,
But you're right. If you can get into combat now, maybe yeah, he's worth it. But you'll have to really see. I think like the new model is excellent. It kind of came out of nowhere. Like I was surprised they redid him.
yeah. Like it was just like boom. Oh, Fabius Bile.
But
Okay.
it's definitely gorgeous, and they stayed true to his original model. But he's very large for.
Yeah, did you see the picture? He's next to a Sister of Silence, and he's like so big compared to the Sister of Silence, who's like tiny.
Yeah, yeah. I guess only time will sell. Actually, like I would have preferred they make like some kind of sick rules for like fallen angels or like Cypher, like something new too. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Next question we answered already. Blast weapons. Will people just switch to 5 models or 10 models? And I think some armies
Yeah.
will do that if they can. Why not? Then there's a couple of custodies questions. What units should we expect to see that blast weapon rules are being released? Will guardsmen become super strong? Depends if they go up to 6 points each.
You also have to take guardsmen in 10-man units so they get strong and they also get murdered. So,
That is true.
but yeah, like conscripts, like the final nail is in their coffin. Well, that was like years ago they did that, but I think like a lot of it is like the GSC are going to be like nuked. The orc boy is just not going to be. You're not going to be taking 180 orc boys anymore. I think that's the case. You're not going to see the 200 Gone armies. You're not going to see the 300 Gretchen armies anymore. Just because people can just get through them that extra turn quicker, maybe. Trying to think what else really spams a lot of troops and is super effective. There's not many. Like the Plague Bearers were already kind of on the decline anyway. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. On the stream, I think we answered them as we went. So, yeah. And I believe there was only Hui and Josh with silly comments on our Facebook post. So
Any silly comments that you want to just allude to, or no? They're all that really silly.
yeah, just all silly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess with that was a good show. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
If you want more information, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CanHammer. If you're listening to us on iTunes, all of the links to all of our social media and all of our other pages is in the description of this podcast. So have a good one.
Good night.